It's so important to connect with the little girl inside of us. That is where she holds the key to the love that we actually dream of. She holds it. So she needs to be seen. She needs to be validated.
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to the Love Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. Hi, how is your week going so far? Okay, as for me, it's actually been going pretty fast this week. My kids are already back in school, but man, it feels like summer. It's been hot here in Arizona. And also, I was thinking about something. I just want to say this to my single ladies. There are a lot of great men out there. And I really think that the majority of the men are good guys. But there are also men who lie and they lead women on. And that's why I think it's important that you actually get to know a man before you take anything further or like you even commit to him. Because even if you find yourself attracted to a man, you already have triggered a hormone called oxytocin, a bonding hormone. It's also produced when a woman is having a baby because it triggers bonding with her baby. And that's how she bonds. And when you have sex with a man, you release a large amount of oxytocin, and that creates extreme bonding. So here's the rule of thumb. Get to know who he is before he gets real access to you. He truly needs to show you who he is. And if his words really match his actions, it's not what they say, it's what they actually do. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is don't put up with bad behaving men. Believe men in how they're actually showing up, such as over time. Do they keep their word? Is he a man of integrity? Is he patient? Is he kind? Does he treat people with respect? A man can only get away with poor and bad behavior if we allow it. And here's the difference. Poor behavior is when a man performs below our expectations, such as acting childish or not having emotional maturity. Bad behavior is when a man disrespects you, speaks poorly to you or about you, or hurts you in any way. That includes ghosting you on a date or canceling at the last minute. A high-value man is straightforward. He won't play games, and you will know exactly how it feels and how he feels about you because he will let you know. You will never have to wonder, and he will be a total gentleman and treat you like a queen. And if a man is stringing you along, which nowadays they call breadcrumbing, and you really don't know where you guys stand, and he's not really pushing or moving the dating dynamics forward, if you're in that situation, my suggestion is you move on. And that's why I say take your time and get to know multiple men at the same time and choose one of them over time. You decide who you commit to. It comes down to the best man wins, and the winner gets access to your heart. I am so excited to introduce our next guest to the show today. Nicole Amaturo is a love and relationship coach, speaker, and writer. She's a mom of 4 and now remarried to the man that she always dreamed of after going on her very own Eat, Pray, Love journey. She wanted to create the love that she knew was possible, no matter how challenging it seemed to receive at times. Nicole is featured as a blogging coordinator for worthy.com. She's a truth serum for women in the world, and she supports them in taking their power back by meeting and accepting themselves deeper. It is from this place that they create love and the life that they desire that matches their worth versus matches their wounds. One of the biggest takeaways I got from Nicole's story, and it was such a great story, is her perseverance and her grit, not to settle or give up on love. And because she looked inwards and she took the time to heal, she started attracting a different set of men and eventually met the man of her dreams. With no further ado, Nicole. Well, hello, Nicole. Oh my goodness, we did
Yeah,
it. We
hello.
are here. Hello, beautiful. Oh my goodness. So I know that the listeners don't even know this, and I'm just going to just say something. We had a moment before we got on today. There was like, I don't know what was going on. I mean, this conversation hasn't even happened, and it's already on fire. So I was like so happy that, thank you for being patient. Thank you for being here with me today because I actually have been so excited about this conversation. No pressure,
Yes.
but I've been so excited about this conversation because I just feel like, in our pre interview, that it is going to be so relatable to so many of us women. And, how your journey and what you shared about how you were, how you grew up and how you were married before, and then the divorce and then got remarried, the whole thing. Like, I know we're going to talk about it all today. But what I loved about that conversation was when you were talking to me, I really was like, wow, I can see myself in her and how you have been able to come to the other side, and really kind of figure it out. And not only that, now what you do for a living and how you help people. So I thought she is the perfect guest for today. So you guys, no pressure, but this is going to be such a treat. So
Thank
first of all, thank you for being here.
thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be
Yes,
here.
I know. I'm so excited. So I was thinking about where I wanted to start with you, and I know you have so much to share, but I want to start from the beginning. I want to start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about like where you grew up, how you grew up, and what was life like when you were younger?
Oh, this is a loaded question.
Yes, yes.
How much
There you go.
how much do we censor? Well, I was brought up in Brooklyn, New York, and to your I want to say like your typical Italian family. Tons of love, so much culture, so much family, also so much chaos and dysfunction. And there's a lot of my mother's own wounds that she wasn't yet tending to and healing, and that I was in the mix, right? So I grew up, and I would say like my core wounds through my childhood, right? And whatever, the way I say it is like these wounds were already imprinted in us, right? Through utero, like we chose the parents like who are going to help us to create those so that we can evolve, right? So these wounds were already, set in me, and like Nicole Amaturo as this personality is going to come in and we're going to work out these wounds. And when I was dating, so I was divorced, right? So I got divorced. We'll go into all that. Then I started
Well,
dating.
hold on. Let me ask you this.
Go
No,
ahead.
but hold on. Let me take it a little back. That's wow. This is already fascinating. So true. So
Yeah.
fascinating. I want to talk about this. And I also want to talk about when you said that you grew up with, like you said, an Italian family with things like that. Did you grow up with your mom and dad? Did you grow up with just the mom, the dad?
Yeah.
Were there any siblings around? And like, what was that like?
So it was my mother and my father and my older sister, 14 months older. And we basically grew up as twins and basically shared an identity. But we'll get into more. We basically like shared an identity. We were basically like Irish twins. And then my youngest sister came 12 years later. So my childhood, like my imprinting and stuff was like the four of us, basically, a lot of it. Yeah. So that's how we grew up. And I moved to New Jersey when I was about 11 or 12, and it was like a whole new world. And from that place, do you want me to just start going into like my marriage?
No, no,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I love to get a little bit of the history of your childhood because I know that plays a obviously a big part in, our how we go about in our romantic relationships. It has a lot to do with our history in our past
Yeah.
and things that have happened, not happened. So I just have a couple more
Yeah,
questions
go
here. So
ahead.
this is good. Oh, this is good, girl. So so you grew up okay, so I know who you grew up with. Now, when you were a little girl,
Mhm.
how did you or did you not, but how did you view your parents' relationship? Was it something that you had comfort in, or was it something that you felt, "Oh, wow, this is pretty toxic?" What was that like for you when it came, to how you viewed your parents and their relationship?
So, I would say that it was confusing because there was a lot of love, but there was also a lot of dysfunction and chaos, you know? And as a very little girl, I was able to see things, right? So I knew when something wasn't right or when something wasn't healthy. And my personality was the one to kind of like call it out and say stuff. If I saw somebody being wrong, I would confront them. So that was like my relationship with my mother, was basically confronting her and her stuff. And she didn't we butt heads. She didn't like that very much, right? Because I was like a mirror for her wounds, okay? Yeah.
Mm.
So I grew up feeling like I was like too much and my mouth was going to get me in trouble. Me knowing things was going to get me in trouble, and I was too much for people to handle, because the people that were supposed to love me and be the ones that showed me that my personality was enough the way it was, right? Basically, my mother stifled it. So I didn't grow up feeling like I was safe to take up space, safe to be me, safe to be seen, safe to be heard. None of that. None of that was in my childhood.
No, that's good. That's really good. I understand
Yeah.
that. So you really felt like from a young age, you really felt that disconnect, like I don't feel accepted for who I am. And there was, and again, and I always want to say this, like, looking back and when we talk about people's stories, we're not putting blame on anyone.
Right.
I get that. We're not putting blame on your mom or your dad. I think parents honestly do the best that they can based on, their
Absolutely.
healing, their what they work through, what they haven't worked through. I mean, it just makes so much sense that we do pass on this stuff, right? We do pass this on. Is it good or is it bad? I don't know how to say it, but
Yeah.
it just is reality.
Mhm.
It really is reality. And a lot of times, especially like with us old, like, I don't wanna say I'm older, but, like, I'm a mom. I'm a mom of a 32-year-old son, and I'm a mom of, a 24 and twins and
Mhm.
all this stuff, and I can honestly say, like, the way that I raised my first son, I always had good intentions, and I thought that, I was doing the best that I can, but,
Mhm.
I've grown up
Yeah,
so much. I've learned so much. I've healed so much. I had no idea, same thing, that when I was a child, how the things were affecting me and how
absolutely.
that played a part with, me not only, in relationships, it's not their fault. It's just reality. And not only in relationships, but how I was parenting my children too.
Absolutely.
And so I think this is why I love having this conversation because I think it's really important because a lot of us feel, as we get older, we feel like, "Oh my god, we're broken, something's wrong with us." No, 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 listen to me. You know what I mean? This is why we're doing what we're doing.
Mhm.
This is why we're having you guys these conversations like this because we want you to know that you know what? It really every human being has stuff, right? And some are harder than others,
Yep.
but every human being has their own experiences. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Again, we're not blaming anybody. You're just telling your
Yeah,
story,
it's my
So
truth, right? It's my
it
perception,
is.
exactly. So I'm sure between our children, I also have 4 children, right? So I have a 25-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 19-year-old, and a 5-year-old, right? So I was like a different
5-year-old.
right, and a 5-year-old.
I love it. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was a different mother to each person with each child, right? Different wounds, all the things. I understand that. And now their perception of something that I did, right, is going to be their truth. My perception and how I did it is my truth. So both are right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's real good. That's true.
Yeah.
It's really true. And so, okay, so you were just explaining to me how you grew up was like always feeling that you had this type of like outgoing personality, that you didn't hold things in, that you were, you know what I mean? That you were definitely not shy. You wanted to like talk and express what you saw.
I
Is that
wouldn't
was
I
that
wouldn't say I was outgoing, and I wouldn't say I wasn't shy. I actually was.
okay. You were shy.
I actually was a little bit more timid and shy to,
Okay.
like, strangers, let's say, but, like, in my house, if it was just if I saw dishonesty, if I saw inauthenticity, if I saw something that wasn't right, I was, like, the one that was gonna speak up. Okay?
Okay, you spoke up.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you spoke
And I
up.
had a lot of emotions. I mean, I'm a Cancer rising, I'm ruled by the moon, like, I felt everything. So I was always very intuitive. I felt everything that I felt like all the things that nobody talked about. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I was able to
Yes.
feel it all, but I didn't know what to do with that because I was so sensitive. And if I let my sensitivity rule me, I would have died in my upbringing, right? I couldn't be sensitive. So then what I did was I put on a protective shell and then it started to just be like the tough guy or like I didn't care and like being more aggressive because that was the way I knew how to survive, right? So the sensitivity wasn't going to work in my household. And we all do this. We figure out what's not going to work of who we truly are. And it always comes down to survival of the fittest at the end of the day, right? So you cope and you say, well, who do I need to be in order to survive? Okay, well, I need to be the more aggressive type. I need to basically take on the things that people aren't saying, and I'll be the one that hold on to it. And and so I went the other route of being more aggressive, like a tough guy, and that was the reputation that I had like in my house. And the funny thing is I'm the complete opposite. I'm so sensitive. I feel so much, but I also have that edge to me of like, don't fuck with me too, you know what I mean? And I had to learn how to, like, work with my personality dating when we get there, because I didn't feel safe to be me at the end of the day. We all grow up not feeling safe to be ourselves, because we all had to learn how to survive.
Correct. And we have different ways of doing that. And the way that you did that was completely, like you said, a protection, like no one's gonna mess with me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get them before they get
Yes.
me. Like I'm strong. I'm not gonna be weak because I notice when I am weak or I don't speak up, it doesn't work for me. So I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go there.
Yes.
So that says a lot, right? That says a lot. That's fascinating.
Mhm.
That's fascinating how this takes a turn,
Mm.
like, for all of us, right? Okay, so now you are growing up, and then you guys moved to New Jersey.
Yes.
You said you were
I
about,
was about 11 or
how
12.
old?
I was going into 6th grade.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so 6th grade. So let's talk about when you first started really, noticing the boys. Were you a young one that started liking the boys very young, or did that come a little later for you?
I would say I was a more of a late, I mean, I liked the boys, but I never felt like they would like me.
Okay.
Okay, so I was a little bit more, like, timid and, a little bit shyer with it. Like, as I got older, I started to gain a little weight, so I was chunkier, didn't feel really comfortable in my body. All the boys that I liked always liked my sister that was 14 months older. So I
Oh,
always
the Irish twin.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So
Oh my
I
goodness.
always
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
felt in the shadows. That was it. That was it. That was my role, was like it just was in the shadows, and that's how I felt when it came to dating and love until I got obviously a little bit older, and then started to kind of evolve and be more comfortable. But yeah, I would say that's how I ended up in an abusive relationship when I was about 16, 17.
Okay, that was the next question.
Yes.
That's really good. Okay, so then what how old were you when you first got yourself in like a little relationship?
Yeah.
And so you're just let's talk about that
Yep.
right now because you just said you were a little later to come about, liking the boys.
Yes.
And but then now you're about what, 16, 17 years
Yes.
old. What happens?
So 16, 17. I mean, I had like little things in between there where, like little hookups or little like, uh, you know, r- things that had
Little crushes. Yeah.
crushes, exactly, right? Whatever. And I would say about 16, 17, yeah, I started dating someone, and he was good looking, and he was I knew all the red flags were there right from day one, right? But he was
Did you know him? Did you know at that age?
I met well, I knew that something was, like, a little bit off, but I didn't
Okay,
trust
that's good.
myself
Okay.
because he was,
Yep.
like, "Oh, it's a good-looking guy that likes me, like, awesome, like, let's do this.
Right.
I'm
Right.
tired
You're
of
like, that's it.
I
I'm
wanna
good.
yeah, like, I wanna experience things," you know? So, went into it, and, it was basically a mirror of what I saw in my childhood, right? So there was a lot of mirroring going on, and I didn't see it at the time that that's why. I just thought that there was something wrong with me, that I created this, that I wasn't like everybody else in my senior year of high school that had these healthy relationships, and I was just like hidden, kind of behind the scenes, and I took myself out of things because I didn't know how to talk about the abuse that was actually happening. Um, and
So you didn't share at the time, you weren't really sharing behind the scenes.
no,
And you were in an actual abusive relationship with the guy at a very young
yeah.
age. So what did you do?
So I'm like, oh, this is emotional for me because I really don't talk about this part of my life that much. Um,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah. So I would say I tried to get out of the relationship many times, and then he would just start to threaten to like kill himself or throw himself out of a car. Like it was like so unhealthy. And something happened where it's like I couldn't just leave. I didn't have the strength to just leave. I had to wait until he hurt me to leave. So there was a moment where we got into a fight. He punched me in my leg. Something happened, and we called the cops, and the cops came, and they picked him up because he had been walking, and the cop said to me, I didn't remember what happened because I dissociated, and
Yeah,
and
yeah, how long were you guys together, at
about
this
two and a
time?
half years.
Okay, so you've been
Okay,
with him for a little while.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the cop said to me, "He hit you, right?" And I didn't remember that at the time. I was like, and then I was like, I think the cop wanted me to lie so I could get a restraining order, basically. He wanted me to say it, and I was like, he did. And then I looked at my leg, and I was like, he did. Like it totally like blocked it out. And then moved back home because I was kicked out of my house at the time. Moved back home. I was living with my sister at the time, and moved back home and got a restraining order. Did all of that, which was very, brave and strong at that young age.
That is very brave and
Yeah,
strong because a lot of women, oh my goodness, thank you that you're saying this. Because a lot of women, stay in those type of relationships for a long,
yeah,
long time. So for you to really have that, and I'm sure, I mean, the insecurity and the scared and then going back, I can only imagine, girlfriend. Um, but for you to be able to do that says a lot.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was so young and lost. I had never had freedom. I was in a controlling Italian household and never had a taste of freedom. And then got into a relationship, of course, that I'm controlled and abused. And so got the restraining order. And from that point, I'd start that from that point, I started to be like, guys were looking at me. I was like left him, got a restraining order, and met my ex-husband. Okay. So it was a 2-week span. And I was like, oh, maybe I am pretty. Like, oh, maybe I'm not like the ugly duckling? And from that place, I was working, and my ex-husband came to buy a beeper, or to I worked at a beeper stand, right? Tells my age. And his friend came.
You had the beeper,
Isn't
you
that
had the
funny?
beeper. Yeah, 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 I love it, the beeper.
And
Some people are like, "What is a beeper?" No, this
literally,
it's beeper, you guys got it.
look it up, Google it.
I love it, I love it.
But I worked at a beeper and it was actually a beeper and cell phone stand, and he came to visit a friend, and he was there. He wanted to take me out, go out. I didn't want to, and then my friend was like, "Would you want to just go out as friends?" And I said, "Okay, I'll go out as friends." I wanted nothing to do with the guy. I wanted nothing to do with any of it. And then I went out.
Well, I can imagine. Yes, you're like, "I just came out of this, like, crazy
Yes,
toxic relationship. I finally realized, you know what? Maybe I am a good-looking woman. Maybe I," you know what I mean? I got that.
yeah.
That makes
Like maybe
sense.
I'm not so
Yeah.
broken. Maybe there's nothing wrong with me.
Yes.
And then I went on a date. We went on a double date, and or whatever it was. And at the time, and it felt like home. Like there was home in him, right? So it was just this feeling of like, I know you, I know you. It was like soul recognition, it felt very safe. So, so safe. And he came from, like like almost like, what is it? Like Leave It to Beaver family.
Okay.
Okay. Like
So
literally, well,
the opposite of the
the
toxic guy,
fuck
like
the fucking opposite of, like, what I
yeah,
grew up
like
with, like,
totally.
"Wait a minute, you're not
Yeah.
throwing dishes when you come home?" Like, "Oh, your parents are still together? Like, they don't leave and then come back and then leave?" Like, "Oh, this is really attractive. Wow, you're hot." Like, that's basically how it went. Like, I
You're like,
right?
"Oh,
My
this is
my
nice."
poor little
Yeah.
person just needed safety. She needed to feel safety, she needed to feel nurtured. His mother was very nurturing, to the point that at the end of our marriage, I couldn't wait to get away because it was almost suffocating, but I in the beginning, I needed it, right? Because I didn't have that. Um,
Oh my goodness.
so what
This
happened.
is what we do. No, seriously, ladies. I mean, how relatable is that? Like, seriously, this is what we do. We go from like sometimes one relationship to literally the
Opposite.
opposite. And then for some reason, why can't we find ourselves in the middle? Like, it takes us time to get in the middle, but you know what? This is what happens, right? This is sometimes what happens. Okay. Okay. So
Well,
now you meet this. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say so much so to the point that at the end of the marriage, I was like, "The next guy that I'm with, I don't want them to have a family." Like, I am so done with
You're like,
in-laws. And then, of course, I marry a guy that hardly has a family. I was like, now I'm like, "Oh, I wish he had more of a family." I'm like, "You really have to be careful what you wish for. You get it."
oh my goodness, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so you meet this guy, and for the first time, like you said, because obviously you really hadn't, you're how old are you at this time?
I was
How old are you right now?
19.
Okay, so like 19 years old. So, you're still so young, you just, and of course, going out of like the relationship that you just went
Yeah.
through, I mean, this guy probably just seemed like,
Ex
hallelujah. Okay,
Absolutely. I was like, "Oh, it's a
yes.
nice Italian boy. My parents will like him. His parents are from New York." Like, I tried to be what I thought I was supposed to be, And I was like, "Okay, like, this is it. This is great." And within he was he was supposed to be my rebel stage. Like, I was like, I'm gonna have sex, and I'm gonna, like, do the thing I never did in high school." Like, you know what I mean? And, the abusive one was the only person I was ever with. So, then I was like, "He's gonna be just fun." No, I was pregnant within 3 months. Yeah.
Wow. So we didn't even know him yet.
No.
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 He just looked good on the
Yes.
surface in
He
the
was
beginning.
really great on paper.
He was really great on paper.
Yes.
Okay. So what did you learn about yourself and what happened in that relationship?
So, I would say, that relationship healed a lot within me, it was very safe. I knew that he loved me and he wouldn't leave, um, but I played out the same roles that I always felt in my life of being too much, like, he couldn't I would for an example, I would started to get panic attacks, obviously, in my 20s because I had PTSD, never dealt with anything, right? And, I remember laying in bed with him hysterically crying because I was having a panic attack, and I was crying, and what I heard back was snoring, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not safe." Like, I can't I'm too much for people. The same way I felt I was colic when I was
So you went
born.
back. Okay, let's talk about so you went back from the how you
Yeah,
felt as a child
yeah,
because you're like this that type of feeling has been so familiar my whole life. And at this point, again, just one thing after another and really not having the time to deal with anything,
yes.
right? Just kind of like, I mean, goodness gracious, don't us women just do
Yep.
that? Don't we just like, what is up with
We
that?
think we
Like,
can handle so much,
right.
right? We think we're okay, but the thing of the matter is I think a lot of us are just so in the knowing. So we know we have pain. We know there was abuse. We know, but we don't get to the feeling body. And then what happens is the feeling body catches up, and that's where the panic and the anxiety and all that starts happening. I didn't even know my family was dysfunctional at the time. Like, I thought everybody was, experiencing the things I did. So when I went to my first therapist in my 20s, and she said to me that my mother was a really big issue, to the point that she said that she couldn't see me anymore because she was getting too emotionally involved. Yeah, that I realized, like, oh gosh, like, I didn't realize how dysfunctional this is. Wow, like, it wasn't me. I wasn't the crazy person, because I thought I was the crazy person my whole life.
Yeah, we do, we blame ourselves, don't
Yes,
we?
yes,
We do, we do. That's why, again, this conversation is so important. So you found out you're laying in the bed and you're realizing, "Oh my goodness, what have I done?" Like, I don't
yeah,
feel emotionally safe,
no,
and that to me is, as for a relationship,
yeah,
and especially for us women,
yeah,
it's that type of safety is huge,
everything.
but it has to be authentic. It has to really be able to feel that we are us, like, whatever that means, right? You
Mhm.
know, hormonal, ups and downs, quiet,
Absolutely.
loud, whatever that is, right?
Yes.
And if we don't have that, what happens? What happened?
So over time, we were married for 16 years. We had 3 kids. We had like a beautiful, in quotes, family. I had like the beautiful, new 4-bedroom home. I had, the beautiful Volvo in the driveway. I was a teacher. I had like everything that somebody to take care of me. I had everything on the outside that I dreamed of, that I used to play with my Barbies, and wished like I would get out of the dysfunction that I was in. I knew that it wasn't healthy, right? As a little girl. And I finally created it, and then I just was not happy, and I blamed myself, right? I thought I didn't know how to be loved, because I was told that my whole life. I thought I pushed people away. I thought I was the crazy one, and that worked for our marriage. So because then he didn't have to look at any of his issues, so I got to hide it all, right? I got to be the
Yeah,
one that
you took you like, "I'll take it all,
I
I'll
took
take
it
it all."
on. I'll be the one that you have to constantly make sure she's okay, the anxiety, the panic, the this, the that, the family issues, and you get to play the role of, like, the savior and the good guy, hiding all of your shit and all of your family shit, who is not functional the way I saw as a 19-year-old girl, right? I realized all the dysfunction that was happening there, that was just quietly happening, and he didn't want any part of growing. He didn't want any part of seeing his stuff. He didn't want any part of seeing his family's stuff, nothing,
You didn't.
right?
Was he let me ask you something just came up, let me ask you a
Yeah.
question real quick. In that relationship with him, and you were just explaining, and man, a lot of men, again, it's us women that start bringing up things first,
Mhm.
right? And often, again, no fault to anybody, you guys. It's just what it
Yes.
is. It's just what it is. But a lot of times, men will just stay more quiet, more, more content in a sense, even though they might not necessarily, but they
Yes.
they are willing to like just deal with more in that respect, as long as that they don't have to face what they need to
Mhm.
face. Because the reality is, you guys, men and women, both the same, need to face
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
That's real. That's real. Okay. It's not just us women. We kind of look at life and say, oh, just women go through stuff. Oh, hell no. I'm a mother of 4 boys.
Yep.
So it's both ways. And so he was able to like, it's really important that you said that. Again, we're not talking, we're just telling everyone her story,
Yes.
right? What happened,
Yes.
right? And so it seemed like he was able to not face things and really not take accountability
Mhm.
for how he was showing up.
Mhm.
And not only that, this is the question I had for you was, did he like leave and cleave, meaning like, detach himself and create his own family with you? Or did he constantly have his family involved with you guys? Because this is a big thing I want to talk about real quick. Meaning, like, I truly believe for a relationship to really thrive and have that type of safety and that connection, that it's not it's when you come from your family, that's wonderful, you come from, your family, but that's not the family that you're going to
Yeah.
create. You have an opportunity to create your own family, and they're going to be an extension. But what happens a lot, and especially in different cultures,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
especially in different cultures. And I would say, like, I'm a Latina, I'm
Yes.
Cuban, and and you're,
Same thing.
Italian. I get
Yeah.
right? That in certain cultures that we
don't have the boundaries,
Exactly.
and that we it's not healthy to
Exactly.
have a family so involved in it, because then what happens, the lady doesn't feel like she's, the queen of her castle. The man doesn't feel like he's the king of the castle. You're still always trying to please,
Mhm.
the
Yes.
parents. So what was that like for him?
Yeah. So the dynamics was that I grew, like, I was pulling away from my parents. I didn't talk to them for a while because I needed to heal my stuff and be
You need
with it,
space. You
right?
need to create your own. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So
That's
we
very,
went through
yeah.
a lot, and I was doing the things where he wasn't. He was not. He didn't want to look at the dysfunction. He didn't want to address things if they did something to me, he just wouldn't address it. He wouldn't even talk about it. Exactly. So I
Oh,
never felt
that's
like
oh,
he never felt like he had my back, right? He didn't have my back in
yes.
any of it, and I felt alone to the point that even with my own sister, I had something happen that I had said to him in front of my sister, like, to him, I said, "Right? Like, that's not what happened." And he was like, I don't wanna say, I don't remember." Like, he would not have my back at all.
Oh,
So
ladies, that's
how do you respect a man that does not have you don't, right? Then you
no,
then
well,
you
let me
then you
what
take
happened?
then you emasculate him.
Yes,
Yes.
100%, because if you can't feel, so what is safety? For again, what is safety? Safety for a woman is emotional safety,
Yes.
that you feel with your man that you are 100% number one.
Absolutely.
That's what happens when you leave your family as a child and you move on and you create your own family
Yes.
and you create your own ways that you guys want to do life. That's where the safety comes. It doesn't mean that you are not connected to the
Yeah, of
family
course.
anymore. It means that you get to have your own family and you get to have your own rules and your own things, and you are not controlled by the family anymore. Okay.
Exactly.
And if a woman doesn't feel protective with her man, and especially for him not standing up for her,
Yes.
there will be no
Lost the
respect.
respect.
There will be no safety, because that's what we need our men for. We need our men to protect us, stand up for us, to really value us, to, respect us. And if they allow somebody else to disrespect us in front of them, and we're not talking about you have to get in this, like, but literally, it literally
No,
takes, hey, 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 you don't talk to my woman like that.
absolutely.
This is really good. This makes a lot of sense to me,
Yeah.
how you didn't feel safe with this guy.
No,
Okay, so what
not at
happened? So,
all.
so for the men that are listening to this, because I do have, male
Yeah.
listeners, I really want you to know how important that role is, that men get to do. It's beautiful, actually. It's so rewarding
Yes.
when, you as a man, that you are, you know that no one messes with your
Mhm.
woman.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking like in a machismo way,
No.
you know what I mean? I'm not, no, no, no,
Yes,
no, no, no. I'm talking like with the family, with the safety.
exactly, and that
Because how would you as a woman think about that? If you're married to your man and he's not even um respecting boundaries, and he's not even saying, how are you going to say something to
no,
the family?
no, no, then
Yeah, you're in a bad situation.
absolutely, I did not feel safe, right? It was the same thing, like, I didn't feel safe using my voice, I didn't feel safe, having an issue. I felt like too much for everybody. The same thing, it's like I was doing the same thing, right, that I did in my childhood. I saw all the dysfunction. I saw all the shit that nobody was talking about, but I was the crazy one. I was the one that couldn't say anything, that was too much, that always had an issue, that felt, all of that. I would just replayed it in a different way. So, yes, he was good on paper, but there's emotional neglect. And there was so much of that in the marriage, right? I completely felt not, I didn't respect him. I didn't respect his lead. He had no vision for like us, his life, nothing. I felt like I was the one dreaming and always having the vision and kind of
You were the
I
go-getter.
was the
You were the,
go
like, "Okay, we're gonna do this," and he didn't have his own, and if when a man doesn't have his own,
Nope,
us women can't follow you.
nope. So what happened was he felt like he needed to be who he thought I wanted him to be. He neglected and abandoned his whole self, right? So absolutely. So like today, he's like this avid like fisherman, and I'm like, I know nothing about that part of him. Like he just hid who he was in the marriage and pretended to be something that he thought I would want because I was so opinionated in who I like, what I wanted, all the, what I needed, etc. And he just morphed and he lost his whole identity. So there was this like shell of a man that had no lead on his own, had no respect for himself, no respect for me, and was just basically this just going through the motions,
Yeah,
right?
that makes
But
sense.
everything on the
Yep, that it
outside
does.
looked amazing. So people would be like, I want the relationship they have. Like that they have everything, blah blah blah.
You're like, "No, you don't. No, you
I'm like, I must be
don't."
crazy. Again, I was like, I must be crazy. Like there must be something wrong with me again because I'm not happy. Like because he played such a good role and he wasn't hitting me, right? He wasn't abusing me that way. I didn't feel like I could leave unless he did something to hurt me,
Yes. No, that's makes a lot of
right?
sense. Don't you see how it like how many of us women have found ourselves, because I know you work with women,
Yes,
I know you help people, but how many of us have really found ourselves in that
yes.
situation?
So many. They come to
Just,
me. Yep,
so many, you guys, because like, and really, let me just say this right now. That is not how relationships should be. Period. That's not how relationships should be. So when we talk about toxic relationship, we're not talking about just the drag
exactly.
down, fighting, violent relationship. No, we're sometimes it's like the silence
Yes,
of it that can be
absolutely.
very toxic.
The
And
disconnect.
so, and I just want, if you're listening to this right now and you can relate to that and you are in a relationship, I just want to say that, it is really, really important that you go talk to a
Hmm.
professional because you should not have to feel so isolated, so alone, and that your person doesn't have your back, but also don't feel the guilt because you're like, well, he's not like beating me,
Yeah,
he's not like cheating on me. No, that doesn't matter.
exactly.
That doesn't matter, because let me tell you something, relationships are going to go through things. We get that, right? I'm telling you right now, even the best of relationships, people, grow and they change and they mature. But relationships overall, the reason why we should be getting in romantic relationships truly is for real, real
Yes,
connection. Is for real authenticity. Is to, relationships should enhance your life. Doesn't mean you're gonna, you should already be good, but if you're in a relationship that you don't have that alignment, you're going to feel exactly how she
exactly.
was feeling.
Yes.
It's going to make you crazy. You're
It's
going to think
gone.
you're really going to put yourself
Yes,
crazy. It's going to be such an disempowering situation. And we can't change another human being. And I want to ask you this. I know you can't change him, but did you talk to him?
mhm,
Were you able to get this realization during that marriage and, and say, buddy, hey, hi, because that's the only thing that we can do. We can only look at ourselves and how we're showing up
yes,
and what we're doing and how we can improve and how we can change and we can ask for them, but it doesn't mean that they're going to.
yes, yes.
So what happened, mama?
So, Charlene, it was so confusing because he would tell me he loved me more than anything and then do the opposite of the things I needed, right? So I was so confused because he would say, nobody's ever going to love you the way I love you. And that in itself is wild to even hear,
Yeah, it's
right?
it's dysfunction.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
dysfunctional, right? And unhealthy right
Yeah, and and
there.
and and we wanna hear it. But it's women wanna hear that.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like it's that
I
craziness, right? You're
know.
like, "That's what we really want," but then, "No, but babe, but you're not doing it." Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it was very confusing for a while, and I tried. There were a couple times where I would, I talked to him about everything. There was nothing I did not tell him. I told him everything. I told him to the point that I was even starting to have feelings for another man. Like I told him everything, and then he would invite the man over our house. So talk about that. Talk about protecting me. It was like he was just throwing me away. Okay. So I tried so hard to talk to him. We went to couples therapy. I was going to my own therapy. I was really trying to make it work for the kids, for me. I didn't want to have to go through that. And I tried to get a divorce a couple of times. One time, a hurricane happened, and we were all stuck in the house together. Another time, he got really sick, and I had to help him and heal. And then we started to work through things. So like twice, and a third time I finally left and I actually went through with it.
You did.
Yeah.
You finally left
Yeah.
and went through it after the 16 years.
After 16 years, I mean, to the point that, like, the second time that I had asked for a divorce, and I was like, that was in the morning, he came home at night and said, "So what's for dinner, babe?" Oblivious, did not wanna talk about real things. I thought I was nuts. I was like, did I not say that? Am I
You're like,
crazy?
"Is it me?" I
What
know,
the
that's why I want people to hear this.
Yes.
Yes, you can it it can be so disempowering, so scary when we are not in a healthy
Mhm.
relationship because it just doesn't make sense. Like she said, on the surface, everything's looking good, but it comes down to, like, truly, what is going on with you? Like, do you really feel safe with this person? Do you
Yeah.
really feel protected? Do you really feel connected? Is this person like your best friend?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, you guys. You're supposed to marry. Your lover should be your best friend.
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
really. And if you don't have that person like your best friend, like that is that one person that you can count on no matter what, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Especially
And
when
if
you
you
lose
stay in those relationships, you lose yourself.
absolutely, and I lost respect. Without respect for a man, it's done.
It's done.
He lost respect for him, right? He lost
Yes.
respect for him ultimately. So, of course, I
And
lost
how and
respect for him.
I want you to say that. How do how do we respect someone when someone respects themselves?
Yes.
Right?
Uh,
That's what we respect, when someone takes care of themselves and they take care of you too.
yes. And it's like, what does
And if
that look like?
someone is aloof, how can you respect is that the right word for it? Just
Yeah, like,
yeah,
whatever, I don't know, everything's
whatever.
great, like, let's go for ice cream. Like, I would talk to him about serious issues, he'd be like, "Alright, let's just all go for ice cream."
Yeah,
What?
he was completely emotionally not available. Like, talk about
Absolutely.
emotionally not available, right.
To
And
to
ladies,
the
again, but it
I was gonna say,
no,
like,
he was emotionally
to the 100th
unavailable
degree, yes.
to the 100th degree, and again, it takes to have a healthy, thriving relationship. It takes 2 people, period. Somebody can start it first. Somebody can start first. I always tell women, I
Mhm.
say, "You can start it first. You start it first. You start, you start changing,
Yes,
you start getting help, you start healing."
exactly.
And usually when you have the right alignment with the guy, they come along. They do come along,
Exactly.
right? They do. So if you're in a
That's the truth.
relationship right now, you're like, "Uh-oh, uh-oh." No, 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 there's hope here. Let me just tell you something. It's not for everyone. Sometimes they don't come along. Like he didn't come along, and
No,
that's okay. It wasn't meant to be in the long run, and that's
yes.
okay.
That
That's
that
life.
that's
But
ultimately what
but
happened. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, but there's relationships that can get, off track and you can feel a certain way. But if you rise yourself first, ladies, first, you do it first. They have an opportunity to come along. And if they don't, then you make a decision when the time comes. So you made a decision. Okay, so let's go. Let's move forward here now.
Yeah,
So then you made a decision. Okay, I'm going to get out of this relationship because I have turned everything I can
I
do. I
did.
tried it all. I've been here. I've tried, but you cannot keep going if someone's not willing to change with you. I got
Exactly.
it.
That's
That
what
makes sense.
happened. So, the
So you
alignment, like you
leave this
said,
relationship.
fell off. Yep. I left the
Okay, so now you
relationship.
leave this relationship. You're a single lady. How old are you at the
Yes.
time?
35.
Okay, so now you left the relationship. You're about 35 years old and you have 3 children.
Yes.
What happens?
Yes. Yeah, so I was at the
What was your
time
view on men after this?
well,
You're like, oh goodness.
that's so funny because I literally just talked to, like, my group coaching ladies, and I was like, "Men are simple, stupid creatures that don't know how to meet a woman's needs." That's
That's how you
that's
felt.
how I felt. Like, I felt they were I had no respect for them, literally no respect for them, you
Oh, yeah,
know?
that makes sense. Yeah.
And so from that point, I knew that I needed to learn how to love myself before another can meet me to where I was, right? So
Wow, wow.
I started to date, and I would write in my journal and I would start to, like, understand myself deeper through the people I was dating and what was basically like being brought out in me and the things I was feeling, right? So I always innately had this in me. I always knew that we attract basically based off of our wounding, not based off of what we think we want, right? I always kind of like inherently had this basically downloaded to me from the divine, right? From God, whatever. Um, since I'm like little. So I knew that, but I didn't really know it until it hit me, you know? So I would date and I would thought as long as I had my outside perfect, like so I got breast implants, I got laser treatments, I got hair extensions, I worked out all the time. I did everything so that my outside could be like perfect, right? In quotes.
You thought, yeah, you're like, okay, I'm going to be like this outside perfect.
Yes.
This is what I'm missing. Okay, got it.
That's how you get a guy to want you. That's what I was taught, right? So I was taught that you're more valued by your looks. Okay? I was taught like you'll get things if you go into a store looking pretty. That's what I was always taught, okay? So what did I get? What did I receive? I received men that only wanted me for my body, for fun. They weren't really interested in getting to know me, my life, my kids, etc. You know, I was the one that was waiting around for them to show initiation, to show that they were interested more. And it ended up making me feel insignificant, unlovable, not chosen, right? All the things that I've felt as a little girl. So when one thing happened with some guy I was dating at the time, and he ended up like choosing this like 19-year-old fetus over me, like at the time. Like literally, I think she was like 19 or 20-year-old like fetus. Like she wasn't even, I think, drinking age at the time. I was like, what the fuck? Like there really must be something wrong with me. Like for him, like what? Like, are you kidding me? And I didn't even want him. Like there was nothing about him that I wanted. He was so unhealthy in
No,
so
it's your
many ways.
insecurity.
I just
Yes.
wanted to be
Yes.
chosen. I just didn't want the little girl to feel not chosen, right? So from that point, I started working with, well, I actually started working with a therapist before that, who was like my spiritual teacher and all of this. Um, and that was when it hit me that, oh shit, I might think I look like this on the outside today, but I'm still that chubby little fifth grader that doesn't feel enough and doesn't feel wanted and doesn't feel like boys are interested in her, right? So I overcompensated. And from that place, I started to really, that's when I really started to dive into my wounds and meet my little girl inside and validate her pain and finally like reconnect with her and see her. I had my, and this is for anybody listening, I had my therapist, she told me to watch Disney's The Kid. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And it's with Bruce Willis, but it's basically about an older man who's having issues in like love and all the things, and his this little boy keeps following him around everywhere and annoying him, and he finds out it's his little boy, and he's trying to heal, right? So I watched that. I started to really understand how deeply it is ingrained in us. Like we can think we want all that we desire, but when we have the energetic imprints within us and all of the old wounding, right? However you look at it, that's either like vibrating with the old energy or just subconsciously within us, that's what we attract no matter what. We're always going to attract something, people in different ways, different men, and they're going to make us feel the same way. We're going to end up feeling the same. So I always say in quotes, how did it make you feel? That is your gateway to healing. However you're feeling in relationship, and people will say like, well, angry, mad, frustrated. I'm like, okay, but those are cover up emotions. What is underneath that? Why are you angry? Because he's not making me feel seen. He's not choosing me. Why are you frustrated? Because I can't seem to get my needs met. I feel like he doesn't even want me. I feel unlovable, right? That's all the core. We use anger, sadness, all of that as covering up the deeper wounds. And all wounds end up to I feel like this universal wound of there's something wrong with me, right? So if we get
And
to
there's
feel,
nothing wrong with you, ladies. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, right? There's
but
nothing wrong with you. It is just being able to address the truth and what's happened to us and why, we've made the decisions and what we're doing.
going to even just our childhood, right? Like it's really what's ingrained in us from childhood that we keep playing out. That's it. And then even
We do.
when I, so as I did the work, the people I started to date started to get better. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. I started to attract more
Very
men that were
good. Oh, let's
interested in
talk
me,
about that.
right?
That's
So,
really good. So I want you to say something in the sense of, like, I know we're gonna get into that right now. That's really good. Meaning, like, so if you're listening to this story today and you also can relate to, you know, being in a marriage that probably didn't work out and you just felt like you weren't yourself, or you felt like you tried everything, and now you are a single lady, and you're also in a position like, why do you kind of keep attracting, like
mhm.
you said earlier, the same type of men? What is something that you want to say to them that you did that can be very helpful for them to realize? Because, I don't want people to keep thinking that there's some feel that they're the one that are broken. It's like you said earlier, it's you being able to continue on attracting. Let's talk more about that.
All right. So it's really not as hard as we think it is, right? It's more about when we first revisit I mean, it's so important to connect with the little girl inside of us. That is where she holds the key to the love that we actually dream of. She holds it. So she needs to be seen. She needs to be validated, and she needs to be given the things that she did not have as a little girl. And I always say this: you did not have to have like the most dysfunctional family to have wounds. There was a ton of love in my family, believe it or not, right? There was just a lot of other shit. Everybody has it. We're meant to have it. We're meant to have wounds. So the work is really on allowing ourselves to see what those things are. So what I would say is that the question that I had said to you before, how is this relationship making you feel? Actually have a free unhealthy love detox.
Nice.
I could put the link to the show notes for you, Charlene.
Absolutely. Yes.
Um,
100%.
but what that is it basically helps you understand what it is that you are attracting and why. So it helps you to basically what it does in there is that you basically write a letter to whoever you pick, one or two people that have hurt you or that you have pain around. And you write a letter, and the letter is meant for you to see the things that you keep attracting, like how he made you feel, right? So, how did he make you feel? Well, I felt unloved. I never felt like my emotional needs were met. I felt like I was too much for you. I felt blah, blah, blah. You're gonna go back and you're gonna say, oh shit, that's how I felt as a little girl. And I always say, the way that we know what we felt is not by what we think we felt. You're never gonna get there by the knowing level and the thinking. It's by what you're attracting always. That is how you're going to know what it is that's really going on in your subconscious.
Oh, that's so
Always.
good. Oh my goodness. So this is when you were starting to do this work yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And because as we hear your story today, and we hear how, the men were different, but it was still the same type of
Yes.
feeling that you were feeling, right?
Exactly.
And so, and until you started healing and looking inwards yourself and started realizing, okay, I I feel different. I want something
Yeah.
different. And it wasn't just like a surface thing. There you have to do the layers.
Mhm.
Then you start attracting different men.
Yes.
So how did you meet your man, your husband that you are with now? Because you guys know this is a good story. I know we're like, wow, this has been, is there hope for me? No, there's so much hope, ladies. Seriously, for all of us. It's beautiful. It's beautiful because her story and how she went through what she went through, and then how she started doing the work on herself. And so she just started saying how she started actually attracting different men to the point she met truly the love of her life. Like, let's
Yeah.
talk about that. What happened there?
Yeah, so I always say if you have a desire for it, it's meant for you, right?
You've ever
So the
what?
only if you have a desire for love, I always say it's meant for you.
Perfect.
You wouldn't have the desire, and this is for everybody listening, you wouldn't have a desire for it unless it was meant for you. So trusting in that, right? So what I was saying was our desire, right? Just the desire for it means that that's like the North Star for us. That's what our soul knows is true and that is meant for us. The only thing we have to do is figure out what's getting in the way of what we desire and what we are attracting.
Wow. That is so good. So you were able to do this. and you start attracting different men.
Yeah.
How did you meet your husband?
Okay, so I met my husband a year before I actually started dating him. He was actually my younger sister's friend. So my younger sister is 12 years younger than me. Um, and my husband is 11 and a half years younger than me. And I had met him a year before, and I said to my sister, "Who is this guy? I love him." And I said, "Why aren't one of you dating him? Like, he was amazing." But I wasn't looking at it for me because he was younger. Like, what was I gonna do with him? I was a 37-year-old woman with 3 kids at the time. Like, what am I gonna do with a 26-year-old, you know? So, anyways, so then a year later, I actually went to, and I met him, and we had so much fun that night. We didn't leave each other's side. And then a year later, I randomly went into this bar actually at the Jersey Shore, waiting for one of my other friends just to get off of work so we can go to dinner. So we just stopped in to grab a drink, and he was there. And he was there with his friend, and his friend had recognized me. They both came over, and we literally didn't leave each other's side like that whole night. And I was like, wouldn't give him time of day though, because he'll argue that we kissed that night. I'll always say we didn't. Um, but I wouldn't give him the time of day because he was so much younger, and he was actually somebody that my sister was best friends with, and he was like the guy that hurt her all the time. So I couldn't do it. I was like, I cannot do anything with this guy. Like, this is Gary. Like, I can't do that, you know? And then I talked to my therapist because I was having a fit, and I was like, I don't understand. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. Healing wounds, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And why is this person getting love before me? What This is probably something you can all feel, right? Like, why is this person getting it? Why is that person getting it? And she was like, "Are you serious?" She's like, "Are you done with your tantrum?" I'm like, "Yes." And she was like, "What about Gary?" And I was like, "What about Gary? What am I gonna do with Gary?"
Gary, what about Gary?
I'm like, "What am I gonna
Like,
do
no,
with
that's
him?"
that Gary's too perfect for me. Now that's actually the right match for me, but forget it. I'm not gonna do it.
Literally, right? I was like, so then I said, I was like, "He's 11 years younger than me. What am I gonna do?" And I'm like, "And I can't because of so and so." And she was like, "He is a soul, and you are a soul. Why are you judging each other's journey? Like, why are you judging your journey? How do you know that there's not an exchange that needs to be made? How do you know your souls don't have a contract?" And blah blah blah. And I felt it because I couldn't stay away from him, even
You
when I
yeah,
would
you
be
heard
like,
you enjoyed Gary like no other. Yeah.
yeah, and, like,
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, when he said to me, "Do I have a chance?" And I said, "No," he stopped talking to me instantly, and then it made me respect him more because I was like, "Fuck, like, this guy has self-respect? Like,
Wow,
hold
this guy,
on."
oh my god, he has some balls.
Yeah, like, literally, like, now that he doesn't want me,
It don't
I'm gonna
matter if
want him
Gary's
more,
younger, man. Gary's a man. Ooh, he's a man. I respect Gary.
right? So that's basically literally what happened, and I started to kinda let him in, and he would say to me, "You know, I like talking to you at night because you're more vulnerable. You let me in more at night." And then I was like, "Wait a minute. This guy has more depth than my ex-husband that was older. Like, I don't understand. Like, what? You know about depth? You know about being vulnerable? Like, this is amazing."
You're like, wow.
Yeah, so that's basically literally, how we ended up then started dating, and he said, you know, "I want you just for me." And that's from that point on, we started dating. He said to me, "Would you have another baby?" Because he always wanted a child. He
Yeah.
never had any
And
children.
you already had 3 kids, 'cause how old was your youngest at the time?
Oh, this is so hard. So my youngest at the time she was born in 2005. This was 2016. So was that like 11?
Okay, so
Is
you were
that
like,
right?
I'm kinda done, right? I thought I
Yeah.
was
So,
done, yeah.
well,
But you're
no, no,
young,
no,
you're still
no.
young.
I wasn't done. I knew. I
Oh, you
knew.
weren't, you knew.
I knew a little baby boy was meant to come through me. I
Wow!
felt him.
Oh,
I
you
had a dream
did,
of
okay.
him, I felt him, and then I actually had a psychic come to cleanse my house after my ex-husband left it, and she said to me also another time, "You know, you're gonna get remarried and have another baby," and I said, "I know." I felt him. He was around. Yeah, so that's basically what happened. And then it's 2 years later, we had our son, um, who's now 5, who is the biggest joy to all of us. Basically raised by 5 adults at this
Oh, I love
point, you
it. I
know.
love it. Oh, I mean, he has to be the ham of the house.
Absolutely. But yeah, the real work started in the marriage because it's really easy to say like I want love and you do what you think all the work to inner work and then all of a sudden you have love and now it's like, "Oh, is love safe? Like can I let this
Yes.
person really in?
Let's talk
Can I
about that. So you
stay?"
found let me talk about that. Let me ask you that question. So
Yeah.
you did some work on yourself, right? But you haven't obviously really applied it yet to a
Yeah,
relationship. You're already
exactly.
feeling better, because I do feel that. I feel like the right relationship is really an opportunity where because the work will always continue. That's just
Yep.
life. Like we will hopefully continue on growing and maturing. So the work, is not like it's not an ending point. No, it is
Exactly.
right. Like it's something that you don't get to like a destination, but you
Yes.
get better and you grow and you mature if you do it, right? It gets
Yes.
better. Okay. So, but what happens is you can meet ladies, this is gonna be really good what she's about to talk about. You can meet the right guy. You actually can meet the right alignment, which first is the most important thing. You got to meet the right
Mhm.
person for you, right? You
Mhm.
have to be in a place that you're like, okay, um, there's something different about this person. I'm getting to know them, it's different than I've ever felt before.
Yeah.
All the things I feel, secure with them. I feel this, I feel that. But even though you have all that, when she just said, it was very important what she just said, even though you're in love and everything's great, but when you get married and you really make that commitment, this is also when you really start doing the work. And the
Yes.
work is talk about that. How
Yeah,
you love the guy, you were attracted to the guy, he was all man, respected, but you still yourself had to do some changing
absolutely.
more. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, we all have a saboteur, right? The little part of us that wants to sabotage everything, doesn't feel safe having love. Think about it. When you're brought up in a childhood where love wasn't safe and love came at a cost, to be loved doesn't feel safe. So we keep people like only so close, right? We'll keep them here and then so what we were doing a lot was push pull. There's a lot of push pull. Okay, so what I mean by that is there would be a lot of energy of like really, really close and then nitpick or something to so that I could push him back or keep him here. And we would play this game, this push pull dynamic, because I didn't feel safe to really let someone into my world. Like I didn't let them so in close, so almost so much so. And the work together, I what I've learned about myself is that when I feel safe with my partner or any human being, my guard comes down and I will give you everything. But if I don't feel safe with you, my guard will come up, and that's any woman I believe we will protect. So Gary had to prove to me that he could grow, right? So that as I would grow, I was scared to grow because growing came at a loss. Every time I grew in my life, I lost something or someone, right?
And
Growing
growing you, it's so vulnerable, right? Vulnerability and trust and the whole thing. So I can only imagine. Yes.
Absolutely. So from that point, as Gary, we'd have the gaps, and then Gary would meet me, like you said. All of a sudden, he'd rise up, and I would always say that's like the miracle, right? I started to realize, wait a minute, I could grow with this man. Like he isn't all talk. He actually does do what he says he's going to do, and even if he does it his way, I think that's so important. Like Gary didn't have to grow my way, the way I knew how, right? Gary had to figure out his own way to grow, and he still figures out his own way to do it. And what a woman will do is a woman will evoke that potential, I believe, in a man. The more heart we have and the more open, the more we let them in to feel, they want to feel. They were never able to feel as boys. They were taught to be tough and not have emotions. So the more that we allow them in and they open, it's like it opens up their untapped potential also,
Yes. Very good.
right?
Yes.
And from that point, we just kind of we understand, we speak the same language now. It's like something it's better than I ever dreamed of, right? Like we speak the same language of growth, and he understands me like no other, and I don't never too much. And he hears me and he sees me and he like loves me in every piece of me. In every piece of me. And I don't hold anything back.
And you are completely you're vulnerable, little girl, all the things with
Yes,
him.
absolutely.
So and you feel a completely different safety now.
I mean, night and day, something I never experienced actually in my life.
Oh,
Yeah.
mama, that's so good. Ladies, oh, I got goosies. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Did you not hear that? Like, that's what I love about this podcast. What
Yeah.
hope.
Mhm.
Because you have gone through so much. Like really like going through it and not giving up, mama. You just don't give up. I love that
That's
about you.
it.
I love that. That's that personality about you. But not only that, I love all of it, to be honest with you. But what I loved is how now that you are in a relationship, and truly for the very first time, she actually feels safe. And that's what the one thing that you've been missing this whole time because you didn't feel safe with yourself. You
No,
didn't feel
that's
safe
it.
with your first. She had to feel safe first for herself to realize, okay, for me to be with someone else, I have to be comfortable with
Yeah.
me
That's
first.
it.
And then
That's it.
I will have if I'm with the right guy, right? Well, if you're with the right guy and you completely attracted him differently than you were attracting the other guys
Yeah.
because you were different. So,
Yes.
ladies, if you like we said earlier, go inwards. Go
Yes.
inwards and get the help that you need. You don't have to do this alone. No, seriously,
Yep.
because um it's something that is so healing and so beautiful, and we
Mhm.
all go through this, right? And some people have relationships and they just get it right, and that's cool too. Like, you know what? It's just what it is. But the majority of
Exactly.
us, we don't learn this about ourselves. We don't learn relationships. And how has that helped you become a different wife for him? Like, because you were talking about earlier how in your past relationships that you felt like so out of control that you had to control things and you didn't have respect and you felt like you were the one that had to do it all. And there's so many of us women, like, we do feel that we have to do it all, we don't let go. How were you able to do that with Gary?
Yeah, so, I mean, I would say that's I would say I still that's still a work in progress, in different ways. I've come really far with it, but I also have that personality that I can fucking do anything. Like you say, I have that perseverance, I have that grit. So that is my personality, like, to be able to, like, make shit happen, That is who I am. And what I have come into is just because I can doesn't mean I always want to,
Mm.
right? And I want my partner to lead more. I don't wanna think like, when I'm with Gary and we go somewhere, like, I love that, like, I'm not even paying attention where we are or thinking. I don't even know what's happening because he's just taking care of everything and leading. Like, I do enough with my business, through the kids, everything throughout the day. I don't wanna think about anything else. So I love that aspect of it, and when there's more room, 'cause I uncovered recently a new layer where I was like, "Okay, you know what? Some things have to change because 'cause I'm realizing I'm doing more than I wanna do in this aspect." And then it's the conversation and it's the letting go, the pattern, to allow being in the void, right, when it's not there yet, to allow the new growth that comes. So it's always a work in progress. I think that we're like we the same way with the inner work and this, it's like you discover a new layer, you see where there's like leaky edges or these leaky pieces to ourselves, and we clean it up, and then all of a sudden a new comes in and a new comes in, and the miracles in all the ways start to come in.
That's beautiful. Oh, I love this. Oh my goodness. How is life with Mr. Gary now? How is your relationship? I mean, because, years ago, you can't even imagine having a relationship like this that you have now.
Yes.
How is it with you guys?
I mean, it's we're building a life together with a joint vision, right? It's so different than anything I ever knew. And even, I mean, just passionately and sexually, it's so different than any relationship. There was that too that was so different because there was such a connection. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're a beautiful little family. Like with his relationship with my kids, our kids now, they love their Gary. Like my son is 25 and Gary is 34. They're not that far apart, and everybody just is. It was what I dreamed. It was more than I dreamed about. It was more than I dreamed about with how he would mesh in and how he would fit into such a close-knit family. But yeah, I mean, I think it feels like it's like we're just getting started with where we're actually going to go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Ladies, did you not just love that? Honestly, like for, the ladies out there who are single and like I just said a little earlier that are kind of like, wow, okay, I was kind of thinking maybe it's not in the cards anymore for me, but I really want it. What would you like to say to them?
I mean, this is like my life's work for a reason because I know what's possible. I know what is possible for you because I went through it, not just from me, right? Myself, I watch my clients do it. I see as they meet themselves more, and I say, meet yourself intimately more. You dig deep and you just show up for your life. You show up for your desires. Your desires show up for you, right? You self abandon, your desires abandon you. You go first, always. But when you do that, you're going to have the love you always dreamed of, and it will always be a work in progress. Because, like you said, Charlene, it's not a destination, it is about the journey, the duality, being with it all that is living.
Oh my goodness. Listen, tell them what you do and how you help. And if they're
Yes.
listening today and they're like, oh, I need her in my life, how do they get a hold of you? First, tell us what you do.
Yes. So I am a love and relationship coach. I do
Yeah, she's an
speaking. I
expert, you
do.
guys. She's an expert.
Yes, I would say that. I'll claim that. But what I do different than a lot of, I wouldn't say I'm like a dating coach. Like I'm not going to tell you what to say, not to say. It's none of that. It's really about meeting yourself deeper. So I invite you into the nooks and crannies within yourself that you've never explored before. And even if you did, you never got to layers that we get to together to unlock what's actually underneath that's getting in your way from what you are actually desiring. So when you do that, I say that's where the transmutations happen. We're alchemists, right? We just change the energy of the past into what we want, and that's where the miracle comes in, and all of a sudden the love you always dreamed of appears. So we work on that. We work on the energetics. We work on the clearing up the space internally and in your external world also to attract and bring that in because I did a lot of that stuff too to attract my partner in.
Oh,
So
yes. And
I'm
how
on
do they get a
my
hold of you? Like, where can
yes,
they find you? Because we're gonna leave, and talk about again one more time, we could leave it in the show notes.
yes.
You talked about something that is available to them, like, right now?
Yep, it's a free unhealthy love detox. And what that will do is it will literally start you on your journey and it will show, even if you already did some of this, it will point you to different pieces of yourself that are ready to be explored. Basically, it's going to show you what is getting in your way of attracting the partner you want. It's going to show you why you're attracting what you have been attracting. It's going to help you reconnect with that inner little girl.
Oh, you
So
guys, get a
that's,
hold of that. That's her free gift for you. That's actually thank you for that. That is
yes,
really incredible.
of
And if
course.
they wanted to, like I said earlier, get in your world, what's the
Yes.
best place that they can reach you and how do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my website is NicoleAmaturo.com. My Instagram is Nicole Amaturo. My Facebook is Nicole Amaturo. And I just started on TikTok at Nicole_Amaturo. So I'm all over the places. And I also have a club membership at a lower price point to give people the support to meet themselves deeper and continue the work together.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. Nicole, listen, you have been an amazing guest.
Thank
And I
you.
just really appreciate, first of all, thank you for being so patient throughout this whole, like, you guys had no idea. Like, the technical difficulties today, we were like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Like, this universe did not want this conversation to happen because it was fire and we needed it to happen today. No, but you have been such an amazing guest. And I just feel like this conversation is going to be so relatable to so many women and so hopeful
Yeah.
because, I love that you said love is available to all of us. It came into our heart for a reason. And, and it's okay. And if we made, bad choices in the past, it's okay. We can make different choices. We can heal. We can move on.
Yeah.
No one, and I always say this too, it doesn't even matter your age. I deal with women that are older
Me
and it's like
too.
maybe their
Yes.
third time, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't even matter your age, but I'm gonna leave you with the last word, because it has just been such a joy today, and I cannot wait for people to hear this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charlene, for having me on here, for getting, you touched on different parts of my story that helped me to see myself deeper today.
Oh,
So I want to thank you also for that.
oh,
But
thank you.
yeah, definitely get the unhealthy love detox. Start and here's the thing that will stop us sometimes is like the what's the point energy. I've tried that, nothing works. I promise you this works.
I love that. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
It works. If you actually put the effort in it and
Yeah.
do what she's talking about, it will actually work. So that's what we have to do, you guys. Like, you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay single if you don't want to stay single. You don't have to keep attracting to, those wishy-washy men. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no. You can actually change it up. Change it up.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're having this conversation today. That's why I have this amazing lady on this conversation today on this podcast. And I hope that was as valuable to you as it was for me. Thank you. And
Thank you.
until next time, cheers to great love.
That's a wrap. Wow, what incredible journey Nicole went through. From feeling her whole life that she was too much and it wasn't safe to be herself, to loving who she is and knowing she deserved great love and not giving up on herself and marrying the love of her life. She now is in her dream relationship with her dream man. Wow. You can learn more about Nicole at NicoleAmaturo.com and follow her on Instagram at Nicole Amaturo. If you're loving these podcasts and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.